And welcome to Learning from Leaders, Part 3. This is our third section in our show today, and we really want to talk today about how you can get the attention of the press. And I'm not just talking about any press. I'm talking about internet media as well as TV, radio, and the rest of the sort. My guest today is the mogul of that industry is Marc Harty. 30-minute PR guy is what I've been referring to him as, because he can really show you how to get the attention of the press within 30 minutes. I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much, Marc, for being on the air.
Thank you.
Well, I want to get into this time a little bit about what are the I want to say the pitfalls, some of the things that people kind of miss when they try to reach the press. Mm-hmm. And then what are, I know you have some like pillars that you want to talk about,
right, that
you can really build a foundation for building a real attention-getting program for a company to reach the press. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's get into a little bit about what are some of the pitfalls you've seen.
Okay. Well, there are pitfalls not only in people trying to reach the press, but also pitfalls in terms of them trying to use a press release to reach their prospects and customers directly. So let's address the press first. One of the things that people miss is, you mentioned it, in your what's called a damaging omission. It's like, well, I'm used to writing advertising copy. So a lot of times, a press release is basically what a journalist would write if they had, the time and the focus to cover you, to interview you, to do a story about you. So you have to make sure that you, maintain and conform to a certain format and structure. And I'll give you a simple example. In advertising copy, the word "you" is used to build rapport, and yet the word "you" is a negative in press releases because press releases need to be written in the third person. So if you're saying "you," you're writing in the first person. So that's kind of a simple kind of formatting mistake. The other mistake that people make is they don't follow through. They do one press release, and guess what? They expect the world to beat a path to their door. And like anything, it takes consistency. I learned an amazing statistic, and this absolutely blew my mind. And it goes like this. More information crosses our brains in 1 week than an entire lifetime from a person at the turn of the century.
I agree.
And so when you think about it, there's so much stimuli, there's so much coming at us. You have to have a unique message. I talked about that with the little twist I mentioned at the beginning of our interview, and that you have to have consistency. I like to do 2 press releases a month. So that's a mistake that people make, is they don't follow up. A lot of times, press release or journalists don't see your press release immediately. But guess what they do when they have to research a story? Where do you think they go?
Online.
Yeah.
I mean, Google knows all. So.
Yes, they go to the Google and they type in keyword phrases, and that's why it's so important for your press release to appear. I've had numerous times where we've gotten press coverage weeks and months afterwards because of that staying power of those online press releases.
Well, one of the keys that you're bringing out, and people need to realize that in today's marketplace, in our media, in the things that we write, we have to write in a different way. In the old day, you'd write a story or something, and you didn't use the same phrase 9 times or 5% of the actual content that's there. But if you want to be seen by Google or any of those, you have to, don't you?
Yes, that's very true. And you referenced something that I want to touch on right now is, a colleague of mine said one of my gifts is I take something very complex and kind of chunk it down into simple things that people can understand.
Sure.
So, if you're watching us and you're thinking, wow, this sounds good, but it's online, it's technical, how, am I going to be able to do it? I've identified what I call the 4 pillars of the new PR. And I think we've got a slide of this here.
Right.
And so, the first one, well, let me just kind of go through them, and then I'll kind of get a little bit more detailed. Number 1 is strategy. Number 2 is story. Number 3 is search, and number 4 is social.
Okay.
And if you noticed, they all begin with the letter S. So that's a little mnemonic device that I'm sure as professional speakers we're all aware of. But let's talk about strategy. So much of press releases and PR is tactics, is transactional, and sometimes knee-jerk. I've got I just hired somebody. I need to do a press release announcement, or I'm opening a new location, and you need to kind of think beyond that. Strategy is the what, tactics are the how. So that's the strategy. Let me talk a little bit about story. You asked about what my process is. I'm a big believer in doing story-driven press releases, not announcement-driven press releases.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason for that is all, we talked about before, all this stimuli that's hitting our brains. You need a story to stand out. And I've developed something which, you mentioned before, can you use like one press release and then kind of use it for another market? You can if it contains what I call a persona. So a persona is nothing more than what is the role, what is the, if you were in a movie or if you, what is the role, if you were cast as a character, what role would that be? And I've identified 17 personas, and some of them you're very familiar with, and the thing I like about them is they're proven successful. So for example, the underdog. I have several of my customers and clients that have the persona as the underdog. They're going up against bigger companies, deeper pockets, maybe they're going against the government, and who doesn't want to root for the underdog?
Well, it's the old, we try harder thing.
And the other thing, too, is that is a conceptual thread that you can tie through all your press releases. So you're not looking at like a blank computer screen or a blank piece of paper. You're like, okay, well, I'm the underdog. What can I do that demonstrates that and is of value to my customers and of interest to the media?
Great. So search.
So search as in search engines. Online PR is very search engine friendly. So what can you do to be found? And I want to make a really important point here, and this also ties into the final pillar, which is social. People think of a press release as a plain, old-fashioned text document. And at one time it was. At one time you would fax it to the media, mm-hmm. or you would snail mail it or email it. And now, press releases are a multimedia experience. Did you know you can embed video in a press release? We could take an excerpt of this interview and put it into a press release.
I'm hoping that we do.
You can do audio, you can do images, all sorts of other things. So that gets to the final piece, which is social, social is about building community and creating conversations. And that's what these new press releases, this new PR can do.
The one thing I want to do is really get into your information is 30-Minute PR, 30minutepr.com. You can email you at the info@30minutepr.com, and they're going to get some good information on how you can help them get more the attention of the press, right?
That's correct. And they can I've got information products that they can do if they want to do it themselves. They want to contact me and have my company help them, they can do that too. But there's so much information there that they can look at. They can really get their head into exactly what is on online PR, how it can benefit them, and really how easy it is. That's what I love about the online piece. This isn't the domain of the elite or a special club.
That's great. Well, as we're wrapping up today's show, I really want to say thank you to Marc for being here. Thank you for you guys for listening, and I hope that you begin to implement the tools. Go to 30minutepr.com and connect to Marc Harty as quickly as possible. We'll see you all next week.